Yeah, another power scaling rant. Alright, look. But this one's not about Naruto, it's about Spider-Man. Alright. Me and my friends, right, we went to go see Brand New Day. And after seeing it, we sat down, ate some pizza. And I don't remember what I said, but it started a conversation of Miguel O'Hara versus Peter Parker. And they were saying like, oh no, Peter Parker wins, like, cause like Miguel O'Hara, he fought like a fake Hulk, a fake Thor, but Peter knocked out Hulk. Yo, I still said Miguel won because of all the other things that he can do, cause his suit, his future tech, his hacks, it still puts him above Spider-Man, to be honest, even if he could knock out Hulk. But a couple days later, today, I asked my friend, yo, where's the volume or like page where like Spider-Man knocks out Hulk? Because the only one I can see is when he gets like buffed by the power cosmic, and he's like, who's the strongest now? Tell me why. I'm looking at this panel. This nigga did not knock out Hulk, bro. If anything, the truck knocked out. If anything, Hulk knocked out himself. Like, I could understand, like, I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, like, oh, like, Spider-Man, he probably used some webs to, pull it down, he still actually did some damage and knocked out Hulk. Yo, I'm looking at this. He has Hulk run into a wall and get crushed by a truck. And he said he knocked out Hulk. I ain't gonna lie. Miguel O'Hara rips Peter Parker to shreds, bro. This man's base suit, mind you, he has an upgraded suit now. His base suit was so strong, superior Spider-Man. Yes, the same Spider-Man who managed to knock off Scorpion's jaw, and I'm pretty sure Wolverine's adamantium jaw. That same Spider-Man could not cut through Miguel's suit. I ain't gonna lie, that man Miguel rips Peter Parker to shreds, bro, unironically. Like, not to mention Miguel's AI. Bro. She can, bro, there's so many things that this man Miguel has over Peter that I cannot name them all, bro. And yes, every single one is useful, bro. The AI that he always has with him, oh my god. That's basically like another teammate that can literally hack, tech. He has organic webs, his talons, his fangs that let him paralyze his opponents if he bites them, Like Peter may still be able to take Miguel down because even though things can't really pierce his suit, he can still feel like the blunt force of the attacks, So, yeah, Peter still can like deal damage and hurt Miguel, but dude, his AI has the time capacity of a nanosecond. That's like 1/1000th of a second, bro. His AI can hack things. She can tell him plan to take out Peter to make it easier. Like this, like Miguel's bag is too deep, bro. This man, he has Batman levels of tech, bro. He has Batman's levels of tech, bro, while having superpowers, bro. He can also tank the acid from his version of Venom, or like his symbiote, because of his suit, by the way. Like, his organic webbing is strong enough to protect him from bombs or explosions that can wipe out entire buildings. Bro, like, his upgraded suit lets him have rocket thrusters that lets him fly while he already has like the gliding wings, right? He also has his it also lets him create holograms, basically shadow clones, bro. Yo, like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna say that like Miguel low diffs or no diffs Peter. I think it would be like a high to mid diff, but I don't think it would be extreme diff, bro. Cause they're around the same punching power, He's fought the Thing before, and he's tanked some hits from him. They both fought like the Spider Killers, or whatever they were called. I forgot what they called. Peter, superior Spider-Man, was sat there freaking put up against the wall. This man was held up against the wall by just one. Miguel comes in, bro. He like dropped like, I don't even know how many bodies of those things, bro. That man's so good, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie, out of all the Spider-Man, bro, I may have bias here. So, you know, some people, like, y'all gotta do your own research on this. But I may have bias here, but I really think that Miguel, like, mid-diffs to high-diffs Peter. And I don't think that's crazy to say, bro. He has too much tech. He has his hacks, you know, his freaking venom is so potent that it freaking knocked out a giant, you know, or paralyzed a giant. You know, he fought fake Thor. You know, he has, like, that man Miguel, bro. His sensory, he can see in the dark, you know. Spidey sense is, he basically has his own version of Spidey sense, you know. His senses are just overpowered. You know, he can't really have, he doesn't have like Spidey sense in the sense that Spider-Man has it. But, or like Peter Parker or the rest of the game have it. But he has his own version of it, you know. They have around the same punching power, same durability, kind of. Dang, that hurt. But Miguel overall takes it because of his hacks, his tech. Like, I don't know why it's so crazy to think that, bro. What am I freaking, like, the heck? Side note, you know, I'm gonna try to make this like 10 minutes long. I feel like we've seen, I'm not gonna say we've seen too much of Peter Parker, but we have like a, what's the word? Damn, my head, bro. We have an abundance of Peter Parker, all right? We have an abundance of Peter Parker movies, shows, you know, animated shows. Like, I really feel like we need a show for the other Spider-Man, you know? Like Miguel O'Hara, you know, that's my favorite Spider-Man. That's gonna be my #1 Spider-Man, you know. He will forever be my favorite, you know. I do love Peter Parker, you know, I do love Miles. Oh my god, Miles is a Mary Sue. Like, I love Miles, but he's a Mary Sue. But yeah, I love Peter, I love Miles, you know. But I really want a show about Miguel. I really feel like it could be interesting. I feel like it would bring something new, you know, instead of seeing the same old Spider-Man. Of course, Spider-Man's never getting old because he's a goat, right? Hold on. Sorry, there was a wet spot on my bed and I thought my freaking brother's cat peed on my bed, bro. I almost tweaked out. Whole time it was just water dripping off. Well, the condensation from the water that I was drinking, you know, from the cup of water I was drinking, you know. Anyways, back to what I was saying, right? It would bring something new to the Marvel fans and to the Spider-Mans in general, because while a lot of people have heard of Miguel O'Hara, they don't know his actual character. Most people only know of Miguel O'Hara because of the movie, and that's just not Miguel O'Hara. And in all honesty, let's really be honest here, bro. That's just a massive decharacterization of Miguel O'Hara, and I understand that they need a, you know, antagonist, and it's kind of cool to see, you know, Miguel as an antagonist for once, but that's not Miguel. I want a show specifically just for Miguel. I want a 2099 Spider-Man show, you know, that fleshes out his character and his brother character and his AI and his wife, you know, and show how dark and more dangerous, you know, the city that Miguel, in the time that Miguel actually lives in, you know. The reason why every version of Miguel DC is so more sharp, more gritty, basically, you know. He's not as he still has that jokey tone that, you know, Peter has, but it's just not to that degree, you know. It's more of a sarcastic kind of thing, you know. While Peter is a lot more hee hee ha ha, you know, Miguel's like hee hee ha ha, you know. But I feel like it would bring in sales, because while a lot of people have heard of Miguel, they don't actually know his character, you know. Every Spider-Man that we have seen, like in the games, you know, I'm not gonna say in the shows, but in that movie, you know, the most popular version that we know, that we have so far at least, is a decharacterization, is not the real Miguel, you know? Like, even in Shattered Memories, Miguel would not have let MJ die simply because he knows that a life is on the line. Just because he's more dark and gritty doesn't mean he doesn't have the same outlook. Well, I'm not gonna say the same outlook, but doesn't mean he's not as dedicated to the cause as Peter is. He's as like he is as worthy as oh my god, as worthy as Peter is. He's as dedicated to the cause as Peter is. He sacrificed his comfort, you know, just like Peter has, you know. Overall, I'll say all this just to say that he's as worthy of the Spider-Man mantle as Peter is, bro. Okay. And it kind of sucks that most like media doesn't really, at least most popular media don't really convey that, you know. Even in like, as I said again, even in Shattered Memories or Shattered Dimensions, I can't really remember which one because I played them so long ago. They literally had to decharacterize Miguel just to uplift Peter, which, you know, I'm all for Peter upscale, but you don't have to decharacterize my goat just to do that. You know, you can make your own ways to have Peter as, like, you know, the special, you know, the cool Spider-Man because he's the original, you know, he's so cool. Yes, I agree, I love Peter, but don't sit there and decharacterize Miguel just to glaze another Spider-Man. Don't do that. Don't do that, bro. For all the decharacterization we deserve a 2099 animated show, unironically. That is actually comic book accurate and doesn't sit here and say, oh, Miguel's gonna let MJ die, you know, he's gonna let an innocent person die, or oh, you know, Miguel, he's gonna and now that I think about it, I find it hilarious that the two most popular media of 2099 Spider-Man both have him letting people die for a seemingly greater cause when that's just not his character. He literally does everything he can to save lives. Now, what I will say, he's a lot more dark and gritty, you know. He definitely will slice you open with those talons. But just like Peter, he is worthy enough to pick up that hammer, bro. That man Miguel is not going to sit there and let an innocent person die. And it sucks that they never want to convey that. They never want to convey that. You know, they both tell, like, please, bro, we need some healing to Miguel's character, bro. Y'all have done too much damage to the IP of Miguel, bro. I need some. Come on, bro. Give me my show, bro. Give me my show, Marvel. Please, bro. You know, Christ warned us Christians about how hard life would be as one. You know, he warned us that, you know, we would have to suffer for his name, you know, struggles that we would go through. But he did promise us that we'll all get through it, bro. And I feel like that's something that we should always remember, you know. Despite how hard it is, bro, we will get through it. Right. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you just love you, have a blessed day.